It is indeed my privilege today to introduce such an innovator, a man who's been there, a man who is there. He's doing it every day. Is Mr. Marc Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix. Netflix. Netflix, the company that changed the way we all watch television. Marc, welcome to High Point University.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us how the whole thing came to be.
You know, one of the things that when you're evaluating ideas is you try lots and lots of different things. And certainly one of the ideas we had was doing video rental by mail. But at the time, everything was rented on those clunky VHS tapes. And so we realized this was not going to work and ended up abandoning that idea. And I think when the DVD came along, that was kind of the spark that said, this actually might work.
And you rang the bell every time somebody rented one?
Yeah, that very first day, this was in April of 1997, we had spent 6 months building this website. And so we were all gathered around for that moment when we would go live. And it's true, the engineer had built in for a bell to ring every time an order came in. And there was probably only a dozen of us in the company at the time. And I remember distinctly, we were clustered in a small conference room, not much larger than this carpet. And at 9 o'clock, he leaned over and hit a few keys. And we all sat and looked around. And then ding! And the first order came in, and we all cheered and opened the champagne. And then ding, ding! 2 more orders, we all cheered. And then ding, 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 ding! And then perfect silence because we had crashed our servers.
And then there was a time when you went to talk to Blockbuster and you wanted to merge with them. They were the giant at the time.
Yeah, at the time, Blockbuster was huge. I mean, they had 9,000 stores. They had 50,000 employees. They were $6 billion in sales. This was a huge company. And at the time, this I think was 1999, 2000, we were in trouble. We had probably had our year, we were going to do about $3 million in revenue, but we were going to lose maybe $30 million in revenue. And it was a time when raising more money was very difficult. And so one of the skills of an entrepreneur, of course, is keep your options open. So one of the options was maybe we try and sell the company, and Blockbuster was an obvious candidate. But we were a fly to an elephant. And despite all the calls to them, they were not responsive. Until one day, this is in the fall of, I think, 1999, we were at a corporate retreat. This is up in the hills outside of Santa Barbara. I had shorts and flip-flops, a tank top, and that was the moment that Blockbuster called and said, we'll see you now. And we were in the middle of nowhere, and they said, we'll see you tomorrow in Dallas. So we had to rent a jet, which I had never flown on a jet before. And it turned out it was Vanna White's jet. So we all flew to Dallas. We went up to the big 45-story Renaissance Tower, ushered into this beautiful conference room, and I'm in my flip-flops and my shorts and a tank top. So you can imagine how this meeting went. Well, we pitched them and said, we have a great idea. Why don't you buy us? We'll run your online business. You can do the stores. Great plan. And they said, okay, that sounds interesting. How much should we buy you for? And we said, $50 million. And they laughed at us. And it was a very quiet ride back on the jet that day. But I do remember thinking to myself, ugh, now we're going to have to kick their ass.
Looking back over these years, if you were speaking to a group of college students, and if they were to say to you, what were the 2 or 3 surprises?
Well, the first one clearly is how successful it was. I am completely sincere. I never could have imagined in my wildest dreams that Netflix would be as successful or as popular as it is. That it'd be part of popular culture.
Did you realize it was successful?
Probably the first inkling I had was when I was doing a New York Times crossword puzzle, and one of the clues was Netflix. And I couldn't believe that. And even now, when my wife and I are watching TV, and some character in a sitcom refers to Netflix. We both look at each other. We can't believe it. It's just astounding to me. It's become, maybe I can't, well, the term Netflix and chill, the fact that, you know, you never, it's amazing to me. So certainly that has to be the most surprising.
And now, Mark, you're an angel investor. And today, as you do angel investing, give us 3 things you look for. You said the person,
Yeah,
but on the business side, what
top
do you
3
look
things
for?
are the person, and then the third would be the person. But I'm kidding, of course, but the distant
But there has to be a process and a product somewhere in there.
True, but for the level, for the stage of investing that I do, I'm not making light of it. It is the person, because the idea means almost nothing. Because whatever idea they come in and pitch to me is not going to be the idea that succeeds. I may not know what it's going to be. I know it's not going to be that one. So what I'm counting on is that person's ability to take that idea, collide it with reality, look at the result, and make an intelligent decision about what the next thing to try is. And then do that again, and again, and again, all the while watching how much money they're spending, all the while recruiting brilliant people to help them. It is so much that person's persistence, creativity, skill at this weird thing called starting a company.
Somewhere you wrote these words. You said, success isn't about wealth or even preparation. It's about having the right attitude. It's about taking appropriate risks. And it's about perseverance. That's really what you're talking about.
It is. I mean, sometimes I sound like I'm a broken record in it, because I think people were looking for some kind of financial ratio they can apply to what makes you successful, or some sort of process, but it's not. It's all your ability to take risks, to recognize that the path to success is not a well-trodden path. In fact, there is no path. You have to be willing to take those 3 or 4 steps when you cannot see where the 5th step goes. And that's a risk-taking attitude, which is very, very hard. And it gets appreciably harder as we get older and more comfortable. So it's one thing to take a risk when you're a student. And that's why I encourage students to do these things. Much harder when you have a mortgage, when you have kids in college, when you have a wife, when you have these other expenses. And so, but that risk-taking is fundamental.
How does one know that one is taking an appropriate risk? I mean, you can only lose your shirt so many times, right?
It's true, and at some point, there's being willing to recognize you're going down the wrong path and escape. Here's an analogy I've never tried before, so at the risk of this being terrible. I skateboard, not that well. My son's a very good skateboarder, and he's trying to teach me to be a better skateboarder. And one of the skills in skateboarding is dropping in, where you stand on the edge of the coping and lean forward and slide down. And what it requires is this tremendous commitment. You have to put all your weight forward. There is no going back. You cannot be tentative. And as he's teaching me to do this, I'm saying, well, what happens if I lean too far forward? And he said, I've been teaching people to drop in for about 5 years, probably 100, 150 kids. I have never seen someone lean too far forward. And I think that doing startup risk is very similar, which is the problem is people take too little risk, not that they take too much. And so I think that if you think you're taking too much, you're probably not. You're probably just taking the right amount.
What are your 2 or 3 pieces of advice that will get them going on the right track and to have the right attitude about what it means to start a business and nurture a business and nourish yourself in the process?
I love the fact that you said to nourish yourself in the process, because I think that's a very essential piece to it. I'm going to layer that in as the second one. The first one clearly is do something. Do not be scared. Do not say, I'll do it tomorrow. Do not say, I'll do it once I finish my degree. Do not do it when I finish my incubator program. If you have an idea, do something that you'll learn more in an hour of doing it than in a year of studying it. There is something about getting out and colliding your ideas with the real world that not only informs your idea, but teaches you how people react. And the other, perhaps the biggest one, is you have to enjoy what you're doing. You cannot work this hard. You cannot work with gratification so delayed if you don't love coming to work every day.
I especially appreciate the fact that you have not let success get to your head. You let your heart always guide you. For that, we're honored to have you at Hypo University. We invite you to come back here again and again. You're doing good work, my friend. I think it was Mark Twain who said, you know, the two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why. Somehow something tells me you've discovered why. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.